So this is the second of the Siemens FD100-8 drives I've got. This is one of the ones where you place some tantalum caps on, where I've got these electrolytics kind of kludged in here to replace them. And electrically, this drive has worked very well. It does, however, have an issue after a whole lot of time kind of troubleshooting and trying to figure out what was going on. After prolonged use, it starts to make a noise, and the noise sounds like a bearing failing. And at first I thought it was here in the spindle, but after observing the drive for quite some time, it's actually in the AC motor that drives the spindle. So if the motor's unloaded, no floppy mounted, it'll run and run and run. If I mount a floppy, after a while, the noise starts, and that's when I realized the motor itself is really, really warm. So I'm partially guessing maybe the bearings in the motor are shot, even though the motor feels absolutely fine is the thing. But the motor definitely way warmer to the touch than on the other drive, and so I'm going to release the motor out of the drive here. After looking at the instructions or the manual, and of course the glasses I need are not here. Let's see if we can get this rubber boot off. Get it disconnected from the start capacitor. Wow, that boot is really on there tight. Now the motor's got a lead directly to the power input. So it's not going to be as easy to pull apart as I would like. So if we can get this clip to release. That might be enough to release. This, let's take a look at what we've got here. The blue wire is on the bottom. Let me draw a little picture here of what I'm looking at. So on the start cap, this is the bottom. There is the blue wire, black wire, and a brown wire, and frame ground. So it looks like I'm going to need to release the frame ground from down in there. Wire needs to come off. Blue wire needs to come off. Brown, black, blue, and the brown wire needs to come off, and that should release the motor completely. Oh, don't want to lose the piece of paper. Let's flip it over again and see if we can get the screws out that hold the motor in place. And I'm debating whether to try to replace the motor or to open the motor up and see if the bearings can perhaps be lubricated. It really was hot, and it was hot enough I couldn't touch it, which was surprisingly hot. And the other drive that was sitting next to it, the motor was warm, but not overly hot. So there is the motor. It feels absolutely fine. I can hear it rattling. That's the noise it's making, just much louder. So the question becomes, do I tear it down and see if I can lubricate the bearings? Of course, to tear it down, I don't believe my set of Allen wrenches are up here. I probably have something else I can use. What size is that? Oh, that's too big. I know I'm way off camera here. Try to estimate the size here. Nope, too large. No, that is a hex. It's just a regular set screw. Yeah, it's... Wow, the screw is turning. Just not as freely as I'd like. It's been it's got some kind of setting compound on it that I think is what's making it so hard to turn. But I would expect at this point it to be loose, and there it comes off the flat. Okay. Yeah, I can hear definitely the rattling inside. That should be cleaned. So at this point, I think I'm going to break the motor down, and I may end up using a different one. I've got several drives with, I think, equivalent motors in them. Hopefully I can get it back together. Assuming it can be lubricated in some way. And I'm probably half off camera here. Something fall in there. So just the one. Bearings don't feel bad. They're stiff. I really don't have a proper tool for pulling that off of there. It's definitely loose on the shaft. But not as loose as I'd like it to be. Oh, great. something I can use to try to walk that up out of there. Like I say, bearing doesn't feel horrible, but it doesn't feel great. Why is that so tight? There's a C-ring under there. It's partly I don't get why that's so tight. Whether to just throw some oil in it. Like I say, it grew really, really warm. And it was on the this side here. So this end, like I say, it grew really warm. To the point it was surprisingly warm. They are, of course, sealed. So part of the question becomes, this motor's a whole lot different, so I'm not going to substitute that motor or try to. This is this is the earlier Siemens, and the drive motor itself is tremendously different. So what to do here? I keep wanting to lose that. There's nothing loose inside. Well, I think I'm gonna soak that bottom bearing in some WD-40 just to try to get some fresh oil into it. And then from there, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Add some WD-40 in the cup here. Sit it down in there and let it soak for a bit. That's definitely the bad bearing. Yeah, I can hear the bad roller in it. And once it gets hot enough, like I say, it starts making noise. That one sounds rough as well. Boy, those are, for just press fit, those are really tight. Well, course, the one that's making the rattling noise is on top, where I can't soak it as easy. It's a paper towel. My fingers are covered in oil. And I'm going to let this sit for a while. Now this is all soaked for some amount of time here. It's now just a big oily mess, of course. Let's wipe off as much oil as we can. I suspect the motor's going to get hot and smell like hot oil. Is all that's going to happen here now. We're going to probably have to remove these bearings and replace them. But for now, I can hear the noise in that bearing. They do seem to be spinning a little freer, which is a good thing. Actually, I've got that exactly upside down. He sat down in there. As always, I'm doing this off camera. Now, let's put the case back together. Just getting these finger tied at the moment. There's no reason to go any tighter. And then I'll need to kind of walk around them. I think and torque each one just to make sure the end cap here has settled down on square. Probably should be doing diagonals here. Yeah, so you can hear the bearing in there rattling around. And it is what it is. I don't have replacement bearings at the moment, so let's get the hex bit back. Get the height about where it was before, which was there. See if we can get this to torque back up. I need the Torx bit back. I think we're back very close to where we were before, so the belt alignment should be good. And the belt's running centered. And I think that actually is spinning a little freer. The power hook back up. Little plate reach through there. This snaps around over the top. Hold it in place. We've got the electrical connections. So towards the bottom, was the blue wire. So let's hook the ground up first. So that's going to be a little bit tricky to get down into. Yeah, that's going to be a pain. Chassis ground connected. Once it's tightened up here, blue wire towards the bottom. The black wire and the brown wire both connect up here on the top lug. A little bit, and the black or the brown. Oh, the cap split apart. Rubber finally gave out on it. And the electronics need to go back in. And only time will tell if that was enough to keep it from getting hot and rattling. And we'll at some point have to tear it back down, figure out how to get the bearings off the shaft, measure them, and order replacements. Or possibly there used to be a place out in Tukwila that repaired motors. Might be able to find somebody just to rebuild the motor for me. Heads get hooked back up. Interface electronics get hooked back up. The stepper motor gets hooked back up. And I think we are Ready to go put it back in service and see if it'll work. I didn't lubricate the bearings or try to under here. Well, that was an interesting noise. Yeah, it just needs all those bearings replaced. Yeah, I can hear, I think, the bearing in the motor making noise, but it is what it is. Not much I can do about it without actually replacing it. Get the tools put away here. Ouch. And I guess call it good enough. Don't know that we solved anything, but such is life.